Hello, a very good morning. Welcome along to Ireland on Virgin Media 1.
That's where we are. It is lovely to have you with us. It's Tuesday, the 23rd of April, and we've got a variety of things coming up on the show today, as always.
Yeah, great to have you with us. Now, very shortly, we are going to have the latest on this week's annual Garda conference. Of course, is taking part in Westport, and chiefs say that Gardaí are not prepared to tackle more riots.
Yeah, wondering what you think about the fact they haven't invited the Garda Commissioner. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you on it. And later on, something completely different. We're going to be meeting the travel expert, helping others to explore the world while finding some new friends too. She travels solo and brings people along with her.
To places like Iraq, Antarctica, crazy places all over the world. So
cool.
That'll be interesting. Plus, our voice assistants like Alexa and Siri teaching our children bad manners. Psychologist Coleman Noctor is going to be here to share his advice on all things AI. So get in touch with us. Does your child scream at Alexa? Do you use it for anything apart from just music? So 0896 111 111, let us know your Alexa woes.
He just wants to know what else to use it for. He's like, is it just
I'm missing
music?
out, I think.
We were saying recipes. That's kind of what people use it for as well. Yeah. You could, let us know. Alan is over there. He's always on to Alexa. Alexa, how are you? How's
Alexa,
it going?
wake me up. Plenty more to come this morning. Our skincare expert, Jennifer Rock, will be showing us some DIY trends to keep your skin looking silky smooth. We're cooking creamy risotto in the kitchen, and we'll meet the viral street artist who creates his own masterpieces on none other than cling film. Yes, cling film. We're going to meet him a little later on. Now, Deric is in Dublin this morning. How are you getting on, Deric?
Good morning. Well, ahead of our two-day trip to Kerry to visit Cahersabeen and Kells, we've landed here in the heart of the capital, and it is a mainly cloudy start out there this morning, some bright spells. That cloud will break up as the day progresses, and in fact, it's a return. Good news to some lovely April sunshine out there today, with top values around 11 to 16 degrees once again, best through part of the south. Now, we've landed here in Dublin's north inner city, Henrietta Street to be precise, and coming up later on, we're paying a visit to number 14. 300 years of history, of Northside inner city history behind the walls of one house. So that's all to come a little bit later on this morning. I was trying to get Alexa going here a little bit earlier, but she's having none of it this morning, guys. I was asking her about the weather. I could be out of a job. Alexa, what's the weather like?
No, it's Siri on your phone,
No.
Deric. That's not.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry.
Anyway.
Now, coming up, we're going to be taking a closer look at some of the stories making the morning papers.
Plus your horoscope we've been reading there.
Obviously.
We're also going to hear the concerns of Garda chiefs as they meet at their annual conference this week. We'll see you back here after the break.
Welcome back. It is time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Independent, the headline there. Households set for new cut of up to 20% in energy bills. Consumers could be in line for energy price cuts of up to 20% after wholesale energy costs fell to a fraction of what they were during the height of the energy crisis.
Gardaí alert as Pimp Archer is released. That's the front page of the Herald. They say Gardaí have been urged to closely monitor the activities of former brothel boss David Archer after he was released from prison in recent days.
I'll clear Bailey's name is the top story on The Sun today. Filmmaker Jim Sheridan plans to try and convince the world that Ian Bailey didn't murder Sophie Toscan du Plantier in his upcoming movie. Her family has called the idea, quote, conspiracy madness.
The Irish Times leads with critical care at Temple Street failing to meet needs of newborns. Doctors have told the hospital that there are major vulnerabilities in the critical care arrangements for newborns admitted to Temple Street Hospital, highlighting an outdated care system for premature and low birth weight infants.
The Examiner leads with hospital war zone when Aoife died. A clinical nurse manager has described conditions in University Hospital Limerick on the night teenager Aoife Johnston died as, quote, akin to a war zone.
The Daily Mail also goes with that story. Their headline, "Hospital was like a war zone on night Aoife died." The inquest has heard that Aoife screamed in agony as her parents repeatedly begged for help before the 16-year-old died from sepsis after spending 12 hours on a chair at the hospital.
Likewise, the Mirror leads with "Hospital like war zone."
Yeah, and finally, the Star also leads with that story with "We begged for help as we watched Aoife die."
Joining us with that story and everything else this morning is political correspondent with the Irish Mirror, Louise Byrne. Louise, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And anyone who was listening into the Coroner's Court yesterday in Kilmallock, County Limerick, in relation to 16-year-old Aoife Johnson's death, it was harrowing.
Really harrowing, really stark evidence coming from that court in yesterday, and we know that this inquest is going to last 4 days, so unfortunately I think you're probably likely to hear more really stark and harrowing evidence. But yesterday was the first day of that inquest, and it heard about the circumstances around Aoife Johnson's death. And we know, of course, that she was a 16-year-old patient. She was brought into University Hospital Limerick in December 2022. She was unwell. She was quite poorly, but unfortunately, due to overcrowding in that hospital, it was quite a matter of time before she was seen. She was waiting for 12 hours to be seen, and she died then 2 days later. And I think what you were hearing yesterday for the first time was from people who were there in the hospital that night working, and you heard, like you said in the headlines, from a clinical nurse manager too. She was called Catherine Skelly, and she was talking about the situation in the hospital that night, where there was literally hospitals, trolleys, and people were cheek by jowl, and there was just people coming in with fractures because the weather was cold. So it was just kind of this perfect storm of things that led to what she described yesterday as the hospital being like a war zone. But she was even talking about things, you know, the amount of staff that they had on. They had 15 people in, they were meant to have 20, but what that nurse was saying is, well, actually you could have had 30, such was the volume of people.
There was 150 people in the ED, and one nurse was looking after 70 patients at one stage.
And I think that's the really stark thing, is just the amount of pressure that was put on these nurses that were working over those couple of days. And I think she mentioned at one point yesterday, that nurse, that, you know, she went home one night after a night shift and thinking, well, it can't get any worse, and she went back in and it had gotten worse again. And just really, really stark and harrowing stories about not only what happened to Aoife Johnson, who we know unfortunately it led to catastrophic results for her, and unfortunately she passed away after waiting on a trolley for 12 hours. Not even on a trolley, you heard of her parents putting chairs together to try and make her a little bit more comfortable while she was in such pain. It's really difficult to hear. It's really difficult to hear in any circumstances, but I think when someone is so young, and she was only 16, just
when you hear the parents having to beg for someone to look at their daughter, but unfortunately it was just so overcrowded, so busy, and some of the testimony that you're hearing is just, it's heartbreaking and really difficult to listen to. And of course, we were in UHL last week and we were hearing other people talking about this, and it's just not on, unfortunately, what is happening down there. And as you say, this inquest is going to go on for the next few days. I'm sure we're going to hear an awful lot more about it. We move on to the next story as well today, that the Stardust apology, of course, the doll is going to return today. So Simon Harris is going to make an official state apology to the families and victims of the Stardust nightclub fire.
Yeah, that's right. So another monumental day for the Stardust families, the victims, their loved ones. And it's coming quite quickly, actually, after that verdict in the Dublin District Court last week in the Rotunda, which returned verdicts of unlawful killing in the case of all 48 people who tragically lost their lives in that fire in the nightclub in Artane on Valentine's Day in 1981. And after that, Taoiseach Simon Harris, quite quick to meet with the families, quite quick to meet them on Saturday. He met with 70 survivors, 70 family members, 70 friends, and he confirmed that he will be making that official state apology. So that's going to happen in the Dáil this afternoon from about 2 o'clock. And it's actually quite a significant chunk of time that's been set aside for this. So the Taoiseach will make his own speech just after 2 o'clock. And then you've 4 hours of statements, which we will hear people from the opposition, people from government paying their tributes to these 48 people who lost their lives. But not only them, I suppose, also their families who have fought so hard for this moment for the last 43 years. And a lot of them will be there today. I was kind of speaking to people last night, trying to gauge how many people might be there. And someone said to me there's 105 seats in the public gallery, which is the bit that kind of looks down over the door. They expect every single one of them seats to be filled, and it's another emotional day. And you know, I was speaking to Antoinette Keegan last night, who of course has been so wonderful, and she's such a formidable woman, a survivor of the Stardust tragedy herself, lost 2 of her sisters, and she was saying that while it's another kind of step forward, that it's still a day tinged with sadness. She's thinking of her own parents who aren't there. She's thinking of the late Charlie Bird, who of course died just 6 weeks ago. He really just only really missed this verdict by a couple of weeks, and he'd done so much work on this. So she was saying that, you know, it's a big day for them, but it's just kind of the next step forward, and what's been a monumental week after 43 years.
43 years, and hope that they get something from it. It's been way too long coming. But a vindication for these families. I think anyone who saw Zara King's report with Mrs. McDermott, who lost her 3 children, it was so harrowing. So hopefully that they get something for this today. And then we will go on. The Taoiseach that was talking about the redress scheme, he mentioned it over the weekend in relation to the Stardust victims. So that's more that we'll have to wait and find out about.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely something the government seem quite open-minded to. And I mean, I think there's an acknowledgement, and we'll hear this in the Taoiseach from Simon Harris later, that, you know, this was justice denied for so long. So it definitely seems to be something that the government are minded to, but you have to work with the families on that. And I understand as well that Taoiseach is tasking his own department with going away and working with the families and working with survivors to see what kind of commemoration could be put in place. So you would imagine that that might form part of it, but I think that's the next step forward, and we'll see what happens after today.
We'll move across to New York now, to the trial with Donald Trump, the former US president. What's the latest there?
Yeah, the trial with the former US president, it's even kind of mental to say, but this is of course Donald Trump's hush money trial, as it's being called, and we have gone to the jury selection, so now the court is really starting to get down to business. So yesterday we heard that prosecutors state that Donald Trump attempted to corrupt the 2016 election, which is quite the charge against the former US president, when he directed his team to buy the silence of an adult film star, as we're calling her on family shows. And this is, of course, Stormy Daniels, who he had some sort of relationship with, we're told, in the mid-2000s, and
which he denies.
He denies, of course, but the allegation is that he had paid her this money not to go public with this during the presidential election trial. And you know, I think the big charge is not actually that he even gave her the money; it's how it was accounted for, which is quite the interesting. He's not on trial for giving her the money; it's how he accounted for the money, how the kind of the accounting practices there.
He gave it to Michael Cohen, his lawyer, and he said it was for election expenses, and they're saying no, it was hush money for Stormy Daniels. And they've brought the owners of the National Enquirer involved to this, because Mr. Pecker, who owns that, the editor there, he's the one who was. It's very interesting. Read it on the New York Times. The catch and kill stories, that he would find bad stories, go out, pay for them so that they wouldn't make it into the press. So this is tentacles. And yet it's not democracy at its finest, is it?
No, it's far from it.
Yeah, and I mean, when you hear something about, you know, he won this election, he attempted to corrupt it. Now, his lawyers are saying, no, this is not the case. He was trying to protect his family, his brand, his reputation, all of this sort of stuff. He's denying that this ever happened.
Okay,
but I think when you think of it in the context as well of this man wants to be president again, and we're, 6 months out from an election, it's kind of wild. So this trial continuing in New York, and
for 6
no
weeks
doubt,
they're expecting,
6 weeks they're expecting, so no doubt lots of headlines and tidbits from this over the next month or so.
So what age is Donald Trump?
77?
77, because...
Does he know he's 77?
Well, so this is a new story about the ageing process and when people believe that they're getting older. So when they've hit... when is later in life? So is it 74 and over?
This is what we're saying. So this is a new study that was done in Berlin, and they were speaking to people about what age do you perceive as elderly. And what's kind of interesting is that people kind of are seeing it later and later the more the years go on. So they did this study originally in and they asked those born in 1911, when they were age 65, what age they think was elderly. They said 71. Then when they've done it again with people born in 1956, when they were 65, they said 74. So it seems that the age we are perceived as elderly is getting later and later in life.
Lots of 74-year-olds, and they do not seem elderly. Like, it's terrible. Like, elderly really makes me think of someone.
I think it's more of a mindset. But if you're healthy
I just think
and well,
it makes someone seem very old, rather senior. I would say senior, probably.
I think as the years get on, and we've progressions in medicine and all this kind of stuff, I think people feel well and people feel young for much longer, which is a good thing.
But now when I'm getting up off the couch, I make a sound.
So would you say you're senior then?
I'm not senior. I'm saying I know that I'm getting old because I make that sound, and also I want to be in my pyjamas by 7 o'clock at night. So I think that's what makes me feel
You're
old.
elderly, Murren.
Do you have things that make
So
you
it
like,
is.
I'm old because, you know, whether it's loud music inside in a pub, you don't want to eat dinner after 8 o'clock. We want to know the things that make you feel old today. You're like, I know I'm old because 0896 111 111.
Creaking bones.
Creaking bones.
Louise Byrne, thank you so much for joining us this
you.
morning. Great to have you with us. Now, still to come, fear and disconnect. Those are just some of the feelings being expressed by An Garda Síochána at their annual conference this week.
After the break, we are going live to County Mayo to hear their concerns. We'll talk to you very shortly on Ireland AM.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, the Garda Representative Association, which represents over 11,000 Garda members, is continuing to hold its annual conference in Westport this week.
Joining us ahead of another day is Vice President and incoming President of the GRA, Mark O'Meara. Thank you so much for joining us, Mark, this early in this morning. Listen, you didn't invite Commissioner Drew Harris to the conference. Why is that?
Good morning, Murren. Morning, Alan. Thanks for having me on the show. You know, our membership back in September was very, very clear in relation to the vote that they took to 98.7%, where they expressed that the vote in the Commissioner, they didn't share that. So, based on that, you know, roll on to the end of April, and here we are at our conference, and our members still aren't seeing any active movement on the issues and concerns that were raised, and we continue to raise them. So the mandate was very, very clear to us when the decision was taken in relation to inviting the Garda Commissioner, whether we would or we wouldn't. And our members spoke very clearly to us, and our Central Executive debated the issue at length. And the decision was made that the Commissioner, for our own integrity and for on behalf of our membership, would not be invited to the conference in Mayo this year.
But then, sorry, Miriam, but then, Mark, you have the Minister then, she is backing the Garda Commissioner. She's not attending either. So the two people that you really need to be sitting down and talking about your concerns, you can't, because neither of them are at the association this week, which is at the association this week. So, I mean, it's not ideal, and it doesn't look great for you and the association, does it?
Well, I mean, realistically speaking, our function and our role is purely to represent our members. And, our position with the Commissioner is well documented and it's well clear. The decision of the Minister, having been invited a number of months ago to attend our conference, that is her decision. And we're adamant that within the criminal justice system there is a separation of powers, and we believe that by declining our offer to come to conference today and to meet with our members and to hear the concerns that are voiced, because it's claimed it could undermine our position with the Garda Commissioner. That is not our decision, that's a decision of the Minister. But no doubt we will continue today and again over tomorrow as well, the 2 days of our conference, to progress and discuss and debate and to make decisions, as is our conference, a decision-making body for our association. And the decisions that are made at conference will then be relayed to the Minister and the Commissioner, and we'll be hopeful there that we will have those concerns and issues heard and come to an agreement on many of them and progress the issues further down the road. But unfortunately, it's a missed opportunity, we believe, by the Minister not to attend conference.
Okay, but I'm just wondering, Mark, you're all sitting there and you're talking to the converted as though you're in an echo chamber. You all feel the same way, I understand that. But as citizenry looking into what's going, ye are the authority figures on the streets around the country. And all of this infighting that you're having, it kind of doesn't inspire confidence in the cohesive nature of the Gardaí when we are just a few months out from riots that burnt our capital city. I
mean, look, to speak about the cohesive feeling within the association, with our membership, the decision for us not to invite the Commissioner, it is unfortunately, it's a situation we would prefer, didn't happen, but we are where we are. The Minister made her decision. as I say, unfortunately, it was very late in the day when we were told that. But we will continue to work through the issues and concerns of our members over the coming days. And we will represent them, and they will be heard. And we most certainly will have every issue and concern of our member heard by both our Minister for Justice and our Commissioner.
But Mark, if you're sort of saying that your members have no confidence in the Garda Commissioner, how does that look from the outside for us looking in to you for policing our streets, and the man who's leading that charge, you don't have confidence in him? Like, it's a terrible situation.
It is. I mean, it's not an enviable situation. But again, we have always been, engaging with the Commissioner, and we remain to engage with his office. And it's not a personal issue. We need to make that quite clear. This is the office of the Commissioner that our members had no confidence in. And we do on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, we meet with him. We met with the Commissioner on Friday just gone, and, and we spoke with him and his senior leadership team. And again, we were asked in relation to our concerns. We voiced them very clearly to him. And we've made it quite clear that many of those concerns remained unaddressed, and that the frontline members, on a daily basis at work, that they're not seeing any relevant changes. And so, because of that, we still engage with him, and we will continue to do so. That is within our nature to represent our members, and we'll continue to do so.
Mark, we do know that there's a huge amount of issues that you are discussing. Obviously, morale, we hear about that all the time within the Gardaí. It's very low. It's very hard to recruit people. Retention of Gardaí, retirement, all of these are issues. But one thing that was very concerning yesterday is this report of a shotgun that was seized by Gardaí twice, the last time in 2009. It was meant to be in secure storage, but it was recovered last year in a Garda operation targeting organised crime. That must be incredibly concerning to Garda members, that something that was secured by Gardaí has gone back out into the streets of criminals.
Well, Muireann, firstly, in relation to that, we want to be very, very clear on this, that the issue of any wrongdoing by any member is something that we wouldn't condone. We would value the integrity, and we support and endorse the integrity of property coming into the possession of a Garda Síochána. But the release of this story on the eve of our conference, we want to make it very, very clear that this has no similarity or bearing on the recent case where our member was cleared through all criminal justice system and indeed all internal mechanisms. And this is more a question for us in relation to discipline and suspension. And we want to ensure that it doesn't sully the innocent name of our colleague. And so the timing of the release of this is something that was questionable for us.
So I feel that you're talking about there the Garda in relation to the bicycle in the Midlands, a very high-profile case.
Correct.
Do you believe that this story about the shotgun has been leaked on purpose on the eve of the Garda conference to put you in a bad light?
Well, we've been asked that question regularly over the last 24 hours. And as I say, we are very adamant in relation to that while that incident and investigation is ongoing, we won't comment on that. We want to make it quite clear that we will not accept any, similarity with the incident of our colleague in relation to the bicycle who assisted an elderly gentleman in a remote area during COVID.
OK, Mark, can we ask...
was cleared of all issue.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Can we ask you about the protests at Minister Rodrigo Gorman's house, and the Taoiseach yesterday saying that he wanted answers from you on how this can be moved forward, and are the guards doing enough in situations like this, and is the law robust enough, and is new legislation needed? Do you think new legislation is needed for this, and how do the guards deal with this if this continues?
I suppose, Alan, realistically, the Taoiseach himself voiced concern in relation to legislation and whether it was robust enough. And, obviously, if he has concerns over that, then ourselves and our members would share those concerns. If legislation needs to be drafted, then again, we would welcome that if that is decided that's necessary. But for us, we would be adamant that we have members who have to enforce current legislation. You have to remember that there was a direction some time ago from the Commissioner's office in relation to a more hands-off approach to the peaceful protests. And that was endorsed by the Minister for Justice at the time. And now we have members at protests, and we're wondering why perhaps they remain hands-off. What we're saying is that they need proper training, resourcing, and they need a clear direction, a clear, unambiguous direction on what to do. Because remember, without that clear direction and without the clear support and legislation, then our members will feel more susceptible and vulnerable to further sanctioning and discipline regulations.
Well, sure, there's a lot of things to be discussed and a lot of things to be brought to politicians and members of Cabinet. Live from the Garda Representative Conference at Westport, it is the Vice President and incoming President of the Garda Representative Association, Mark O'Meara. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lots more still to come in Ireland DM.
See you shortly.
You're right, welcome back. Now it's time to turn our attention to small businesses here in Ireland.
And we got a shout about it. Virgin Media, they've got a brand new initiative, Tommy. It is the Backing Business Community Initiative. And here to tell us more, social media trainer Samantha Kelly and owner of Fervour & Hugh, Stephen Gian. Thank you both so much for joining us this morning. Hello, how are you?
Morning, guys.
Lovely to have you. So let's talk about backing business. How important is it to have sort of someone behind you when you're a small business championing you, Samantha?
Oh gosh, it's such a huge step to start a business in the first place. But, you know, so important to have support. And sometimes we ask our families before we start the business, and we might have support of our families. But it's so important to be able to talk to other business owners, because no one's going to understand your challenges like cash flow and someone not paying you on time and, you know, oh, is that customer right or was I right? So it's nice to be able to bounce ideas off other business owners.
And how important is it to get support? The likes of the Virgin Media Backing Business, like what do they offer? What sort of confidence do they give you, and give you the opportunity to talk to like-minded business owners as well?
Well, look, there are lots of networks out there, right, and communities for business, but it's nurturing that community that's the important part. So there are lots of communities that get created, but then they're just getting a newsletter once a month or whatever. And there are lots of great communities out there too, but the backing business community is all about giving value. So we have a panel of experts, we have experts, and I have so many SMEs in my community on Twitter and LinkedIn that, you know, I know the experts, I know who's great at what they do, I know who's the go-to expert in their niche. So I know who we can choose for the webinars, but also it's about highlighting the business that might not normally get an opportunity.
So there's a campaign, there's webinars there for people to come into, and then you'll put them in contact with other people. We'll come back to what you do in just a minute to understand that. Stephen, you won one of these Virgin Media Backing Business campaigns, is it? What happened?
Yes, we won. We entered the competition back in 2001, and we were lucky enough to become one of the winners of the 5 business, and we got a huge amount of support from the Virgin Media business. We got a brand new website, fervourandhugh.com, gave us you know, international reach, and we didn't know we had. Like in the COVID time, we were shipping 8 chairs to Taiwan 1 week and 22 chairs to Belgium. That kind of reach we didn't know we had.
Wow.
And it was
You're a bespoke interior company.
Yeah, we're a home interior company based in Cork. We specialise in occasional furnitures, summer furnitures, and soft furnishings and home accessory products. We set up business back in 2016, myself and my wife, and there were 8 years in business. Now we have a 230 stock list on the island of Ireland.
Right,
Wow.
that's incredible.
Look at those chairs. Oh my God.
Starting a business, it's daunting and it's tough, and you lose lots of sleep, particularly you and your wife. So what benefits do you get out of this?
Oh, numbers of ways. Number one, we got the brand new website. We spoke there, give us the international reach. And then the second thing is the publicity, the visibility we got. I mean, back in 2001, with the other 5 winners and the sponsor, we had a photo shoot on the middle of a Grafton Street. And so that kind of publicity gave us on the local and the national newspapers.
Something that small business owners, you just couldn't dream of unless you're willing to pay a massive amount of money.
You are
for
looking
it.
at the marketing team.
Yeah. Exactly.
So never mind a PR team, you know,
Yeah.
from Virgin Media, you know. So
Remember back in the days when the poor models used to have to get into the bikinis on Grafton Street?
Well, listen,
Was that what you have to do,
Stephen could be in
Stephen?
the bikini.
Is that what you have to do? Do they make
with
you
a
get into a
mankini,
bikini?
with a mankini.
Mankini,
That would
beautiful,
get you on the
beautiful,
front page
beautiful.
as well.
Yeah.
But even in terms of like social media and stuff, because as you say, you're trying to do your marketing, you're trying to organise distribution, trying to organise manufacture, sales, social media. That's something that takes so much time as well. So having somebody who can kind of be a little bit more direct you, and that's, I suppose, where you come in.
Well, you see, the thing is, like you mentioned, you're the marketing person, the accountant, you're everything, you know, when you're a small business owner. And if you're on your own, it can be very isolating. And that's why it's really important to have a community. And the Backing Business Initiative was such a success, you know, when we did it back then. You know, I think this is just a great way to resurrect it. People can join free. It's free. And also, you don't even have to be a Virgin Media customer to join. So it's really a great initiative, and it's great to see people joining the webinars and engaging and networking. Like we actually came up last night. I live in Wexford and Stephen lives in Cork, and we stayed in the hotel and we had dinner and we were chatting, and then I ended up getting him on Twitter by 9 p.m. So, you know, it's all about networking as well and building those relationships.
There's one person I know who wants to be on Twitter. Amazing. Like, cool.
So is it webinars are a big part of it?
Yes,
Yeah.
and then
What else is there?
opportunities. We'll have a business hub where people can go, and like we did a cash flow webinar, for example, so people can go in and look at the cash flow replay. There'll be newsletter. There's a newsletter as well. So if you're an expert in your niche, you know, if you can write articles for us, that's content for our SMEs, but also. It's opportunities. There's events. We're doing real life events. So there's going to be some exciting events coming up as well. I can't say too much at the moment, but I know that the plans, I've seen them. So, and I'm so passionate about helping business owners because, you know, it's not easy. It's exciting, but it's a bit of a roller coaster.
So it's a Backing Business community. So anyone who is a small or medium enterprise.
Or solopreneur.
Solopreneur.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. You can join, Alan, you're a solopreneur. You can join this. Can you? No, he's not paying attention to me. So if you're working by yourself, you can join this initiative.
Yeah.
And then you just start chatting with other businesses who might be in the same.
We're creating a LinkedIn group as well where people can actually promote their business and stuff. And then it's all about giving them opportunities. So whether that's, you know, being on the webinar, you're getting in front of a whole new audience.
Okay. So people can, where can people find it?
If they just go to Google Backing Business, Virgin Media Business.
And from your point of view, Stephen, as an owner of your business, Fervour and Hugh, like how beneficial is it, and how much would you encourage other people to go on to virginmedia.ie and check out this?
Oh, absolutely, hugely. I mean, we were only talking about this last night, and like the networking event the Virgin Media put together is fantastic. We were at one in a couple of weeks ago in Dublin. Just, you know, you met loads of people. You don't know who's going to turn up at these events. You know, you very much could be your next client.
Yes.
You know, and they might know somebody could be your next client.
Yeah. So sometimes when you're kind of with your head in the sand, just work, sometimes kind of lifting it out and go to an event like that, you never know what opportunities could come.
Well, people buy from people.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to go out and meet people.
There you have it. Samantha Kelly, the tweeting goddess, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And Stephen Gian, owner of Fervour and Hugh in Cork, thank you so much. fervourandcork.com, isn't that right?
fervourandhugh.com.
Hugh, sorry.
Yeah. And to find out more about the Backing Business community, you can visit. It's on virginmedia.ie, and it's all there. Still to come, we're going to be meeting the travel blogger leading hundreds of people around the world.
Plus, our assistants teaching our children bad manners. That's the Alexas and Siri's psychotherapist, Coleman Octor, will be here to offer his advice. We'll see you after the break. You're very welcome back. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. It leads with critical care at Temple Street failing to meet needs of newborns. Doctors have told the hospital that there are major vulnerabilities in the critical care arrangements for newborns admitted to Temple Street Hospital, highlighting an outdated care system for premature and low birth weight infants.
The Examiner's headline, Hospital War Zone when Aoife died. A clinical nurse manager has described conditions in University Hospital Limerick on the night 16-year-old Aoife Johnston died as, quote, akin to a war zone.
The Daily Mail also goes with that story. Their headline, Hospital was like a war zone on night Aoife died. The inquest has heard that Aoife screamed in agony as her parents repeatedly begged for help before the 16-year-old died from sepsis after spending 12 hours on a chair at the hospital.
Likewise, the Mirror leads with Hospital like war zone.
Yeah, and the Star also covers that story. Their headline, We begged for help as we watched Aoife die.
Now onto something completely different. Gardaí alert as Pimp Archer is released. That's the front page of the Herald. They say Gardaí have been urged to closely monitor the activities of former brothel boss David Archer after he was released from prison in recent days.
I'll clear Bailey's name is the top story on The Sun. Filmmaker Jim Sheridan plans to try and convince the world that Ian Bailey didn't murder Sophie Toscan de Plantier in his upcoming movie. Her family has called the idea conspiracy madness.
And finally, some good news. Households set for new cut of up to 20% in energy bills. That's the front page of today's Irish Independent. They reveal that consumers could be in line for energy price cuts of up to 20% after wholesale energy costs fell to a fraction of what they were during the height of the energy crisis.
Yes, but it's gone up.
I just
Come
stop
back
bringing
down.
down
I know.
the
Anyway.
It's not
Listen,
often.
we were asking you earlier on, how old do you have to be before you start feeling old? And a lot of you have been getting in touch
some
with us.
great texts on this, actually.
Nicola says you start feeling old when you sneeze and you pull a muscle in your neck. Oh.
No, it's just like every morning you wake up, it's like, oh. John said, I know I'm old because the things that were considered punishments as a kid, like being sent to bed early, not going out, not going to the party, etc., are now treats.
I don't have to go to that party, isn't it great?
I don't have to come up with an
I want to
excuse.
go to bed early.
I'm so happy. Clodagh, I know I'm old because when I'm filling out a form online, I have to scroll forever to get to my date of birth.
Do you know that even when you're booking a
true.
flight, you have to do that? I love this one.
true.
And on a recent holiday, myself and my husband went to book a table for dinner. They told us, they offered us 8:15. We both looked at each other and went, oh, that's way too late. 8:15.
I'd never digest that before
oh,
bed.
that's way
That would
too
be
late.
terrible, terrible.
I mean,
8:15.
is it depressing, like, whenever you know you're at that stage, but you're actually happy and comfortable, like,
Well,
to
you
kind
know
of
when
go...
you get into bed with a big smile on your face,
Oh,
and you just want it to be clean sheets.
Oh, love it.
You're like, someone's saying here that when you start drinking ginger shots instead of tequila shots.
And Emma says, I'm only in my 30s, but I found myself giving out about how loud the music was when I was out with the girls recently for dinner. Never thought, it's very loud.
Very loud. Can't hear
I know,
you.
but I love that. She
Very
said,
loud.
I never thought I'd hear myself say that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
That's
you
it.
know that, you know what, I'm old.
We've got a 20-something behind the camera there, Dana, looking at us going, the state of these hours.
Oh, Dana, do you know what she got excited about? She was able to hang the clothes out in the line with the dry weather.
Dana, you're so old.
I was trying to give you some cred, Dana. I was trying to give
Oh,
you
she
some
said
cred.
I was delighted I could hang the clothes out.
I mean,
That's when you know you're old. How many washes did you get done this weekend?
Oh, I
Could have been
tell
10. Amazing.
send us in, give us a laugh this morning. There's a
Please.
couple of great ones there that you can sneeze and pull a muscle in your neck. Love it.
089 611 111. We would love to hear from you on You Know You're Old. When?
And do you know when you are scrolling
Yes.
to find your date of birth?
Yes.
Yeah, that
Very
is
depressing. Now, after the break, we're going to find out how voice assistants might be influencing your children.
And if you don't know what a voice assistant is, you're old. Stay with us for that. It's great to have you back. Now, are you one of the many homes in Ireland that own a voice assistant, such as Alexa, Amazon Alexa, or Google Home?
I think it's 26% of houses in Ireland have them. And joining us now to discuss the impact that this technology can have on children is psychotherapist Coleman Noctor. Hello, Coleman. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Voice assistants. So these things that are around the house that can listen to us and answer us and do all these things. What do you make of them?
Yeah, I suppose it's any sort of interactive technology is really convenient, and there's no doubt about that. But it does allow us to skip things, right? So as adults, you know, we can ask something and it'll give us the answer. But when you're a child and you're developing, you almost have to problem solve. You have to learn how to find things. You have to learn how to be frustrated when you don't get what you want, and you have to become a bit of a researcher. But what this does is it allows you to kind of bypass that process. So it gives you the instant response to that, which, while it may be convenient, maybe we're missing out on something in terms of how our brains work, actually, and how we find our way around a problem, how we navigate a problem, how we negotiate a problem. So it's just from a developmental point of view, you'd worry about children losing the skill of being able to critically think about something and investigate something.
Okay, because my daughter's 7, and I kind of think whenever I was a kid, you had your tape player or your CD player or whatever else, but I don't know what alternatives there. So we got her an Alexa. And they're kind of the first generation that are coming through this. We don't really know how it's going to affect them, but I can think, is it not good to embrace this technology sometimes as well? Or as a parent, do you let kids embrace it, but you just always have to be mindful and just carefully listening to them?
Yeah, I mean, buying an Alexa to play music is like buying a phone to make a phone call. It's probably what we do the least amount. You know, the phone has so many other capacities,
yes,
as does the Alexa. So from the point of view of, you know, you're asking it questions and all that sort of stuff. These are not designed to disrupt children's development. They're designed to make our lives more convenient. But there was research years ago that said children can search Google, they can finish a game, they can do all these things, but a high percentage of the same children couldn't tie their shoelaces or ride a bike. You know, so when we're getting very technically savvy around technology, there are other skills like social interaction, like communication. So I'd meet lots of young people who would search exhaustively on a website to try and find an email address rather than make a phone call to a company to see if there's any jobs available, because they would find the spontaneous social interaction of a phone call anxiety producing, because they're far too used to controlled text-related communication. Yeah. So if we skip the gaps of being able to socially interact, of being able to tolerate the uncertainty of a conversation, and we become reliant on that. And the other thing is, like, we see young people interacting with bots and AI, like Snap AI. So they're asking questions and they're conversing with a device, which is an AI-driven device, which is just an algorithm which is giving you an answer. And again, you know, when we think about all these technologies as adults, you were talking about, you know, feeling old. All those things are not designed for us. They're designed for the next generation. Yeah. So when you have the metaverse and all that sort of stuff where people are engaging with avatars, we're looking at that as going, that's really weird. But if you're playing Fortnite or you're doing any of those things, avatars are part of your life.
So do we overthink it, though? Because this is this generation, and generally probably our parents were concerned about us and how things evolve, and it generally works out okay.
I think it's the opposite way. I think we're underthinking it. Okay. I think we see these devices and go, oh, look, you can play music, and we don't think about the cost of what it's causing, you know, in terms of what's being missed.
We're looking at it at face value, as in, oh, you can play music, but then there are so many other things that we're not taking into account.
Our relationship with technology is still romanticised. Yeah. We look at what it can do. We don't look at what it's costing. So, like, from the point of view, being able to book a flight, being able to do your banking online, these are brilliant things. But being able to call your service provider and say, I have a problem here, is a luxury no longer available to us because we interact with bots and it's all those sorts of things. So in trying to, in the spirit of convenience, we've missed out on the human. I suppose my worry is that as technology becomes more human, do we become less human? So things like empathy, things like being able to read the room, being able to read a reaction. If you're interacting with more bots than you are humans, then that skill. And say, for example, like with Alexa and the voice assistants, there's research to say that children say please and thank you less because they've one of those. Because they say, Alexa, play that, stop that, shut up, whatever the code is.
Well, I have noticed that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't react to pleases and thank yous.
No.
It's very short, succinct commands.
And that's one thing, Tommy, I think is really important as a child, to be courteous and polite.
Yeah.
It's not just it makes you very likable, and it's such an important task. I think it scans to you right through your life.
Yeah.
But if we miss that, and it's not, children are not being rude, they're just missing out on an opportunity to see how important that is.
But is that up to parents, though, to pick up on that?
Yeah.
You know, it's not Alexa's fault and it's not the kids' fault. It's up to the parents.
Do you not have to police the technology you're giving your children? Like, parents have to take control of it. Not that it's good or bad, but it's not the thing. It is in the parents' gift to give them.
Yeah, and again, the more and more roles of parents have to mediate and have to get involved. And, you know, there's never a right time to be a child, but there's a very difficult time to be a parent, which is now, because
really
you're trying
hard.
to keep an eye on all of this stuff. Like this is great, but what are they missing out on? So I think there's a lot of plates to spin for parents to keep an eye on that. But it is about, like, technology is a relationship. It's no different to food. You know, we develop a relationship with technology, and we have to realize that. And it's up to us as parents to mediate that relationship so that it complements our lives, but it doesn't supplement things that we actually need in our lives as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like, it's interesting even because in your article in the Examiner talks about this, and talks about even your son and how he was having a conversation on his phone, but a conversation with a chatbot, with one of these Snapchat AI things. Like, would that concern you as a parent, that your kid is, like, literally having a full-on conversation with a robot as opposed to, like, one of his mates? And you wonder where these conversations go and what sort of information they're being given.
I mean, that's a perfect example of the middle ground. So it's not a problem that he does it, but if he's doing that 80% of the time and not talking to his friends at all and choosing to interact with a bot because it's easier, then you've got a problem. But to ask, you know, ChatGPT or Google a question, like, say, for example, if you're trying to think of what was the theme tune to Magnum PI or something, you know, you can just Google it. And whereas before,
How do you know you're old? What?
No, before, but Mia, we would have spent time trying to remember that and trying to recall that. That's really good for your brain science, you know, to keep your memory and concentration. And it'll be at you all day trying to think of what that is.
Genuinely, I might kill you. What is the theme tune to Magnum PI?
Exactly.
Can anyone repeat?
Hey, but that
Alexa, play the theme tune to Magnum
But it is right, actually, that the instant gratification of technology nowadays, and that is a big thing, that there's no sense in, there's no waiting, there's no delay anymore. You get everything immediately.
And that's the issue. Because it's speed and convenience, everything is about gratification, and we're losing out on what it is to be fulfilled. Fulfillment is something that you invest in over time. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, go to the gym today for 9 hours. You won't look any different than you went in. But if you went 3 times a week, over 6 months, you might see a different. That's a fulfilling thing.
Big time.
But when we focus on, like, and I would say intensity over consistency.
Yeah.
You know, you can brush your teeth for 4 hours tonight. You'll still have to do it tomorrow morning. Do you know what I mean? And so the technology is all about press that, get that.
But
And
life isn't
everything's
like
shorter as well, isn't it? It's like TikTok videos, like YouTube shorts.
Because you
Everything
have to
is
get
quick,
the hit.
quick. Yeah.
You know, when you remember the Magnum PI theme tune later on, you'll be like, oh my God, and you'll feel so good. But it's...
Because you'll feel good because the effort you put in to try and remember it. Yeah,
you talk about frustration tolerance. Is that what it is? There's what is that? Frustrate. There's no tolerance for it
we have
anymore.
to learn to wait. It's not an innate skill. So you have to learn to put up with having to be bored, having to not be entertained. And that helps you to cope with adversity when it eventually happens. If you don't practice frustration tolerance, you're going to have kind of meltdowns and tantrums and things when things don't go your way. Okay. And we're seeing that in society. We talk about retail rage, road rage, all that sort of stuff. People are less patient. And that, you know, technology is having an impact on that because it's giving us things without building our frustration tolerance, if that makes sense.
Wow,
it
very
really
interesting.
does. So it's for adults and, of course, children. We're wondering what you think of this. Have you had your children interact with these AI voice technologies around the house? 0896 111 111.
And even are we seeing anger and rage more and more in driving and in supermarkets where people just don't have the patience anymore? Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch.
MacGyver, isn't it?
MacGyver. Dallas.
Ah,
okay,
for
it's not
goodness
Magnum
sake.
PI.
We're trying to attack the young kids
Sorry.
here. Like,
He brought it up.
Listen, Coleman Doctor, psychotherapist, thank you so much.
Thanks for staying with us. We've got a beautiful classic Italian dish with a Cork twist in the kitchen this morning.
Yes, Jack O'Keefe is here to make us asparagus risotto with some black pudding crumb. Good
mouthful,
morning.
isn't it?
Oh, but
we've
Jack,
got
I
some
have
here
to
as
say,
well,
the
and
black pudding just tops it off beautifully. It's
just put
gorgeous.
Class, that little crispy bit on top as well.
Yeah, it's just gorgeous.
as well.
Right.
Yum. Right.
Risotto, are you ready? A lot of people are scared of cooking risotto at home. There's no reason to be scared. It's really fun. Like,
Well,
put on your
takes-
smart speaker. Get your
Yeah.
Andrea Bocelli going. Get your bottle of wine open or
Takes
whatever.
so long and it can go wrong, though.
It can. If you actually walk away from it, it tends to go wrong, right? So what I do is, look, like in front of me, I have everything ready. What we call this in the kitchen is mise en place. Everything is ready to go. I have all my chopping and all my ingredients are laid out, and now I can start cooking. Now I can start having fun. I'm going to use a frying pan because it's quicker at home to use a frying pan. Like for your portion, I
yeah.
actually just use a saucepan, and you'll see that there in a few minutes when I get to it. But put a pan on a nice medium heat, okay? Like really easy. While the pan's heating up, just fill a pot full of hot water from the kettle and put a stock cube or a jelly stock pot into it and have that ready. I could give you the exact measurement of how much stock I use.
you just keep
But you
filling it up,
don't. I
don't
use
you?
my
Yeah.
eyes. Like Alan was there watching me cook that, and I literally
you
just
keep
kept
putting
adding
stuff on
stock,
it, yeah.
tasting it. When the stock would reduce, I taste it again,
Okay.
add more. So good glug of extra virgin olive oil.
With the rice, do you need to wash it first?
Yeah, give it a rinse under cold water. It removes that kind
The
of
starch or something, is
starchiness
it?
from it. Stops it from being gloopy, and sometimes stops it from being gritty as well.
Okay.
Good, maybe half tablespoon of butter.
Okay.
Pop that in, right?
Right. And what's this, to fry the rice?
Just it makes the as you're kind of frying the onions, it just makes it a bit more richer adding the butter to it, right?
Oh, sorry, the onions first.
Add in diced onion, chopped garlic, and let that cook nice and gentle. Like look at all that olive oil. All that's going to soak up into the onion and give it loads of lovely flavour. Like that risotto is so minimal. It's just onions, garlic, thyme, rice. That's it. Cooked down. So all this olive oil gives it really nice flavour.
And olive oil, like it's kind of healthy, is it? Would you use extra virgin olive oil or?
I wash it
Well,
down
it's
with
the
a
butter
tablespoon
you
of
have
butter.
as well, yeah.
No, like
But-
you could use Irish rapeseed oil as well as delicious.
Okay.
But for this, it's not about the health or anything like that. It's about taste. If you want to be healthy at home, use maybe some avocado oil or something like that. But extra
Okay.
virgin olive oil is healthy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right? Some chopped thyme goes in as well. Give that about 2 or 3 minutes, right? While that's cooking here, I have some black pudding. Some really good artisan black pudding. All I did was open it up, crumble it up with my fingertips until you get a nice kind of black pudding crumb like that.
Yeah.
That goes into the oven, 180 degrees for about 10 minutes until it's a nice, dry, crispy black pudding.
Right. Okay, so that's going to turn into the crumb. That's the kind of
Yeah. And it turns into this then,
on the top.
like so.
Yeah.
Nice, crispy, delicious and dry. And you can actually, if you've anything spare, you can actually keep that to the side then, you know, for extra, like for adding on scrambled eggs or whatever the following day. Onions and all that are cooking away. Once they're nice and translucent after about 2 or 3 minutes, shake in your rice. And you want about 70-ish grams of rice per person.
Okay, yeah.
That's the kind of best way of doing it.
Because that's not what you put in there, is it?
No, that like the amount I shook in there was enough for maybe 2-ish people.
This
as a
says it
starter.
all, Jack. It's not often Alan Hughes has finished his before me. Honestly.
And being so quiet
Right.
during the whole cooking section.
I cook the rice in the butter, in the olive oil, with the onions before I add the stock. And what that does is it cracks open the membrane, allows the stock to go in so you get a nice fluffy rice. I have a skillet here nice and hot with some asparagus. So we're going to top it with asparagus and the black pudding. Pinch of salt,
Okay.
drizzle of olive oil. And then my little trick with asparagus, now it will make your house, or your kitchen anyway, a little bit vinegary in the air, is I put a little bit of balsamic over the asparagus before I cook it.
Oh, before you cook it?
Yeah. Oh, just the smell, the flavours. It's great on the barbecue in the summertime.
Right.
Pop it in.
And you're just frying those off?
Yeah, and you give them about 3 to 4 minutes, and that's all.
Are you just kind of like toasting the sides? Or do you kind of...
Yeah, that's all. Just charring them.
Yeah,
And by the
okay.
time they char up, they fully cook all the way through then. Right? Now,
Enjoy that, Al. Do you like risotto?
Jack, that
What?
was one of the nicest things you've ever cooked.
and it's one of the simplest things as well, isn't
Wow.
it?
It's
Right.
one of the nicest things you've ever cooked. It was
you.
absolutely divine.
There's more there now. So once once the risotto toasts into the pan, I start adding about 2 or 3 ladles at a time of the stock. See the way it simmers? Bring your heat down to a medium heat. So if it's an electric hob, about 5. And what we're doing is we're reducing the stock into the rice. Once it comes down and starts to look thick, get a spoon, taste it. If it's still raw, add another 3 ladles of stock.
How long in
simmer it.
general would it be? 12 minutes?
8-10 minutes. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
And you have to watch over. You have to spend that
No, you
time.
can be pottering around the kitchen. You can be cleaning up the mess that you already made. You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not messing. I'd have this on a Wednesday night.
How have you got it so creamy? 'Cause this is really
Right.
creamy,
Yeah,
isn't it?
So,
the amount of butter.
When it reduces down, I added in an entire wedge of Parmesan.
Oh my
So about
God.
that much into it. And 2 tablespoons of butter, right? So, see the way it's kind of gone
Yeah.
a little bit more solid. So then to loosen it up, we'll pretend that has cooked,
Okay,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Hey,
there it
look,
is.
there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Right, so it's the Parmesan and
It's
butter
the
then
Parmesan
that's
to make the
kinda added
sauce. Right?
it. Okay. And
You have
even
your-
if you cook it a little bit and it's fairly well cooked like that, you just add in a little bit extra stock.
Yeah, that's it.
Just and boil it down again.
Like in restaurants, when I was growing up, we'd have always half cooked the risotto.
Okay.
You know, during the daytime, cooled
Yeah.
it down, and then for service we'd have reheated it with just a little bit more stock, and then added in all the cheese. And you want, when you're serving it at the very last minute, you want to add in
Let's
about
plate that up.
Yeah.
another about half tablespoon of butter.
Well, do you know what? We both finished ours, so I think it's time for seconds.
Right, stir it in.
Come on,
Come on,
plate her up
come
there.
on,
Take
come
it.
on, get it in there.
Right,
Oh my God. Seriously, Jack, this one's
That's
the
my
nicest
kind of
thing
portion.
you've done.
Yeah.
And the
See-
black pudding just
Yeah.
adds, I don't know what, it just is so lovely with it.
and see the rice. So people say, "Oh, risotto can be mushy." No, it's not, because you have lovely, crispy black pudding and stuff on
And, then,
top.
and just the asparagus is
A
gorgeous.
bit of
on it as well.
asparagus, some micro leaves.
And a
Done.
bit of balsamic vinegar over the top.
No, I don't
More
want to do
cheese.
that. There you go. Jack,
And then you
absolutely.
can drizzle on your balsamic then.
I tell you, Muireann's going to devour this as well as tonight. Because Tommy has it again. Jack, always a pleasure.
problem.
That was gorgeous. Thank you very much. Now, after the break, Deric is going back to his Dublin distant past.
I
We'll
love
see you in a
the
few
crunch
minutes.
on it.
It's gorgeous. See you in a few minutes.
Now, Deric is getting a history lesson this morning in Dublin City.
He's finding out what life was like in the past for residents of Henrietta Street.
How are you getting on, Deric?
Thank you very much, team. Welcome down here to 14 Henrietta Street, one of the most iconic and historic buildings, not only here in Dublin's north side inner city, but right around the country. Tim Carey is with us. Any relation to Jim Carey?
And unfortunately not, no.
Anyway, Tim, first up, tell us about this beautiful building here itself. When was it built?
This was built in the 1740s. We're on Dublin north side. It was built by Luke Gardner. People may be familiar with him. He would have been the biggest property developer in Ireland in Dublin in the 18th century on the north side. So he would have built O'Connell Street, Parnell Square, Mountjoy Square. This was one of the flagship pieces for him. This is one of the most desirable locations to live in, Henrietta Street. The first person who lived in the house was a man called Lord Molesworth. Again, very wealthy. This was a street that had, bishops, vice-chancellors of Ireland. This was really a place apart. And actually, when I came up this morning, you get to the end of the road and you look up, and it's like you're walking through a portal into the past. You know, it's like walking into a film set. You kind of knock on it.
So very gentrified, right?
Very gentrified, and one of the most important streetscapes in Ireland and indeed in Europe. So it started off as very wealthy. You know, this was the top brass would have lived here. After the Act of Union
in 1801.
In 1801, very good. The nobility and the wealthy people of Dublin started leaving the capital. It was no longer a capital. Place went into decline. This started being taken over by kind of barristers and lawyers. King's Inns is at the end of the road. And then in the later part of the 19th century, it was bought by a man called Thomas Vance. And he put an ad in the paper saying, I'm turning what was this beautiful house and one of the most important residences into tenements and 20 flats. And it became one of, the typical Dublin tenements. And it's hard to imagine, like Lord Molesworth lived here with his wife, 2 children, small number of staff. In 1911, in the census, there were 100 people living in this building. There was 850 people living on this street. I mean, the volume, the noise, the activity, the life is absolutely incredible. And a lot of people, I think, aren't aware that the tenements in Ireland, in Dublin, really didn't cease to exist until the 1970s. And actually, the last person to live in a tenement here left in the 1970s.
Bring it up then to 2004. came into the hands of Dublin City Council, and you've done great work then, the restoration project.
Yeah, so the Heritage Office of Dublin City Council took it over, took an interest in this whole area and saw that the uniqueness of it. And from 2008 until 2018, 10-year restoration project here. So it wasn't sort of, let's just make it look like, you know, the Molesworths were still living here and that it was all amazing. You know, they worked with what they had. It was in a very bad condition, so there had to be a lot of replacement, but they kept absolutely whatever they could. And if you go up the stairs here, you can see the sort of, you know, new timber inserted, but very carefully inserted. So when you come in here, it's a very authentic experience. And when you come here, you know, you're not looking at sort of, you know, china teacups and, you know,
it's living history.
It's living history, and it's about the people that lived here. And Dublin City Council's culture company, it's very much about people and storytelling. So everything we do really relates to, you know, providing easy access to culture, easy access to heritage, easy access to history, and telling stories. And that's what you get when you come here.
All right, Tim, we'll come back to you in a little bit later on, because we're going to walk and talk here through the house here itself, and we're joined now by one of the local guides. Ty, tell us about the room we're in here at the moment.
So this room that we're in now, this was the dining room in the 18th century. You'll see on the walls these portraits. These are the first residents of this house, Richard Lord Viscount Molesworth and his wife, Lady Mary Jenny Usher.
I mean, there's a lot of grandeur here, isn't there?
Yeah. So you'll see the stucco work is original, and this is really beautifully restored.
These floorboards, are they original?
Yes, these are original floorboards, actually imported into Dublin from Eastern Europe in the 18th century.
Now, tell us about the room we've landed in here.
So this room, we believe, would have been a bedroom in the 18th century, and so we furnished it with a very beautiful 18th century bed. But this bed didn't originally belong to the house. It's a very special bed belonging to a man called Bartholomew Moss, and he might not be a familiar name to viewers, but he was the founder of the Rotunda Hospital, so a very important man in Irish history.
One of the oldest hospitals in the world.
Yes, it was the first purpose-built maternity hospital, as far as we know, in the world yet.
The bed here, the mattress came up to here, I believe.
Yeah, there would have been several mattresses, usually a straw mattress with several feather mattresses on top, meaning that you would have actually needed steps to get into the bed generally, and then you would have had lots of bolster pillows behind you. You would have slept semi-upright.
Very, very cosy.
Yeah.
And now we're coming into a complete juxtaposition, because this is the tenement side of the house.
Yeah, so the house became a tenement in 1877, and the first thing you'll probably notice out here is the walls. These colours on the walls, they are original, and they're very iconic of the tenement in Dublin. This blue is called Reckitt's blue. It's made by the paint company Reckitt's, and it was chosen because it contains a distemper. So the idea was that this disinfectant would be, taking in the germs from people coughing and sneezing. Obviously, it didn't really work. The red, though, that you see here, this is red rattle, and this contains rust or iron oxide. The idea being that it was antifungal, and so would prevent the damp from rising. But many residents of tenements, what they remember is using this red rattle for another reason, because young women, when they were going out dancing, oftentimes they would lick their finger and then rub the red rattle, and you had free rouge and free lipstick.
Free makeup, yeah. There you go.
So this hallway today, we can't really recreate as it would have been in the tenement period, because it would have been in complete darkness. And that meant that for many people living in this house, especially children, coming up this staircase here was quite a dangerous affair, very scary. So Paddy Shields, who actually lived on the very top floor of this house, he remembers what he'd do when he came into this house. He'd shout up to his mum on the top floor, he'd ask for a light, and then she would take a piece of newspaper, light the corner of it, allow it to float down the centre of the stairs, and then he'd run up as quick as possible.
Absolutely incredible. Where can we find out more online, the website?
So 14 HenriettaStreet.ie is the name of the
to
website.
Tim and Tig, all the staff down here, we've really enjoyed our tour. I hope you have at home as well. But for now, back to you in studio. Let's get a little bit of rouge off the ball, will we? We won't touch the ball.
No, Deric, don't touch that.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that. Historic building.
I'm just about to say, we don't have the money to cover that, babe. We really don't. Now, coming up in the next hour of Ireland AM, Jennifer Rock is going to be here to answer every single one of your skincare questions.
What's she going to be doing for me this
We're also
week?
going to speak to jet setter Janet's journeys about turning her passion for travel into globe-trotting business.
And we're showcasing some cling film art. Yes, you did hear it right. Cling film art on the patio. We'll see you after the break.
Hello, welcome back. We're talking about loads of things this morning,
loving some of the
including
texts.
artificial voice assistants in your home and if they're a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, well, your Alexas or your Google Homes. So we were talking about young kids and the effect it has on them, and even about their manners. So we have a message in saying, my daughter, when talking to Alexa, asking for something, they're told to say, hi, Alexa, then ask her question, say, thank you, Alexa. She used to just shout, Alexa, get her answer, and no manners, which transfers to real life behaviour. So I nipped that in the bud a few years ago, and now everyone compliments me on her manners.
Well done.
Well done to you. And I think
Alexa,
it is good.
Can you please play, or thank you, Alexa?
But
Very
sometimes it
simple
doesn't
thing.
recognise it.
Doesn't recognise a compliment
So
or
can
asking.
you go, hi, Alexa, and then you're kind of waiting for it to say hi back?
Yeah, and it doesn't know.
There's
You
like
have
that
to just
kind
go,
of like,
Alexa.
oh, can you play this? And
But
then you
I
talk
found out,
over each
I was
other.
with the chatbot recently, on whatever mobile account I have, and I said thank you at the very end, and as soon as you said thank you, they started again because they didn't recognise, they thought I had another query.
I know.
And I was like,
yes.
but I wanted to thank you, chatbot.
just wanted to say
Chatbot.
program to that.
We were also
It was
asking
interesting.
you-
So we were just saying with Coleman Noctor earlier on, he was saying that all the impact of all this is leading to people being having no tolerance, no
Frustration.
patience,
Oh, yeah, people who
frustration.
just shout
Frustration
that thing
and
and it gets-
everything is
everything
immediate.
like that, yeah.
So it's very interesting.
We were also talking about a fabulous topic earlier on about what age do you consider being old? And my God, have we been getting some texts in this morning. Eileen says, you know you're getting old when you drop something, you stoop down to pick it up and you look around to see what else you can do while you're down there. Pete does that, our camera does that all the time.
You know you're getting old when people are saying how young you look.
Oh, that is
yeah,
so
you're
true.
looking young.
You're looking very young, looking very rested, aren't you? Martin, you know you're old when you put your hand over your mouth before you sneeze in case your teeth fall out.
I think we've all had this, so Michelle, when the hangovers take longer than they used to.
It's not worth it. You know when you start going, it's not worth it. Not worth it.
Jacinta, myself and my son Killian are eating breakfast watching the telly. Killian will be 10 in May, and he said he will feel old when he hits double digits.
Go on, Killian.
Killian,
So
you
old.
won't
Fair play
feel that
to
when you become 17, 18, you won't feel feeling old, I'm telling you.
And I knew I was getting old when the highlight of my day was getting the grass cut before it rained. Anne, that was
That's
brilliant.
good. I'm all about that
That's
too.
it. Look, you'd be mad for that, wouldn't you?
I love this one. Deric says, you know you're old when your calendar is full of doctor's appointments.
The one person in the... He's like, Der, how did you get in? I can't get into my GP. I haven't seen my GP in 6 weeks. I can't get an appointment.
I have an appointment on Thursday.
Of course you do.
Of course you do. Grant, you know you're getting old when you're attending more funerals and weddings.
Oh, yeah. What's another one? Brian, you know you're getting old when you put your pyjamas and slippers on. At the time you used to go out, if I'm not in my pyjamas by 7 o'clock at night, I don't know what's wrong with the world. Love it.
And Mary, when you're watching a box set of the Golden Girls, I love the Golden Girls. Golden Girls are brilliant.
It's on TG Car all the time. It's great.
It's
I
great.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh, we've lost him.
Too busy listening to Alexa.
Alexa, play
Alexa,
Taylor
play
Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Guys, thank you very much
you
for
so
sending in your text. Gave us a laugh this morning
It
and what
did.
can be, some tough topics we
Now,
discussed here. So
speaking
that's
of getting a laugh, what are we going to do to Alan Hughes' face when we get to hang out with the skin nerd?
A chemical peel?
Maybe. Stay tuned on Ireland AM. It's coming up. Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. It is time for our skin saviour to solve all of our beauty dilemmas. That's right. The skin nerd, aka Jennifer Rock, is back once again to save the day.
And she's going to give us a masterclass on some chemical peels a little later on. But first of all, so many viewers' questions, as always, Jennifer. So let's get to the first one. And Annette here is, I'm a woman in my late 40s. When I change products, I get spots on my face. So I don't know what's the best thing to do. Can you give me some advice?
I think the first thing I tend to, and this happens to a lot of people. So first I say, choose product by product one at a time. That's definitely something I advise people to do, because if you bring a lot of products into your skin in a short space of time, you are more likely to cause irritation, sensitivity, or even just, as she's saying here, as Annette is saying, to have that kind of oil surge. So cleansing is always the first step in a regime that I'd encourage people to kind of bring in. Why? Firstly, you want to cleanse thoroughly AM and PM. It'll degrease the skin, but it really helps to balance out the skin's natural protective layer. So the product that I brought with me here today for that is a relatively new product to Ireland. It's the Science of Skin. It's their rescue cleanser. It's really affordable. It's available in many different places, but ultimately it's created by a plastic surgeon. So it's based on someone who really has a lot of knowledge on how skin behaves, how skin behaves under trauma. If you think about it with a surgeon, they're obviously, you know, causing scarring. So this is the cleanser in particular. This essentially helps balance out the oil. It really helps with the skin's microbiome. So it's a nice gentle foam, safe up around the eye. For someone like Annette that's trying to get their skin under control, stabilise their skin, beautiful cleanser, very thorough, balances oil, and really helps to balance out that natural microbiome that we have on our skin. But they've lots of products, guys, like really interesting one, like insect bite products, stretch marks. So because it's from a plastic surgeon, it's just a different way of looking at skin.
Because I still have marks from insect bites.
Yeah, they do leave a dent. There's no doubt about it.
Ask you, Jennifer, why would she be changing her products?
Yeah, now is this a lot of...
Good question.
I'm really worried about it, because people seem to be like, I need to change up my routine, like my hair care and everything, and you don't.
So yeah, it's a great question. So look, it can be a tough one to answer in a generic sense, but I'm a big believer in, as I said, starting one product and then, you know, incrementally bringing more and more in rather than a whole new regime at one time. When you're doing that, you get to really see what makes a difference. So for example, if you bring this cleanser in, a month later you're saying it really is working for me. Sometimes people, including myself, are impatient and we just want results overnight. I try a new shampoo and I'm like, oh, it just hasn't given me that finish up, but I have to keep going. So persevering for a good 30 days. Why do we say 30 days? Again, an ingredient like this in the Science of Skin product is ECGC. Essentially, it's there's lots of ingredients in these products that have science, but that science takes time to work. And so it is about sticking with it and taking a photograph. I always say this, take a photograph on day one of anything that you ever purchase, just for yourself, not for a WhatsApp profile photo, for you to see, right, did that cleanser make a difference? Yeah, I can see a difference, and then bring in your serum and then so on and so forth.
That's a good point. Louise, I'm in my mid-40s. I've got eczema, which makes the skin on my face very, very dry and sensitive. I've tried lots of different serums and moisturisers. Every time I put them on, my skin gets red and itchy. I almost feel it burning, so I just use water and moisturiser. But as I'm getting wrinkles, I feel like my skin needs more. What would you recommend?
It's a hard position, isn't it? Because you're looking for something that will make you feel the best version of yourself, but then your skin won't allow you kind of push yourself to that point. In this scenario, if someone's red, itchy, hot, that's more the medical side. So I'll always say nip to your local chemist, chat to them to make sure everything is A-OK. If we're taking it that somebody, which a lot of the Irish skin is, we're called the curse of the Celts. Like we're known to be quite a sensitised nation. I don't mean sensitive personality, I mean sensitised skin. But the reality is we don't always acclimatise to what we would call actives. Now, I speak so openly about my love for things like acids and my love for things like retinol. What Nux have done very cleverly over the last 40 years is they've been working on, or 30 years, my apologies, they've been working on trying to find an alternative to a retinol. So for someone like Louise, whose skin is dry, sensitive, irritated, but wants that impact of the plumpness, the dewiness, the pore refinement, the texture, this is another, I suppose, another delivery. So they have essentially what's called alpha-3-or technology. Essentially, it means there's lots of active ingredients inside it, but it's been proven. It's got 3 patents alone for that particular product, which is very unusual for a new skincare product. But again, it's testament to the fact that it's been, I suppose, created for such a long period of time. You're smelling the orange and raspberry. It smells delicious.
Can I ask you, when you see something here helps anti-aging?
Yes.
Do you like? Do you believe in it?
Do you know what I find? And this is when we get to the TikTok part later, you'll see that my qualm is that you can kind of say anything and it's not regulated unless you're actually working like a brand like this at Nux. When we I create products myself, I know this, you have to legally comply with what it actually can do. So when a brand like Nux says it does help with anti-aging, they have science and data behind it to say it actually truly does. If I jump to my TikTok trend and say, you know, lemon does this and baking soda does that, I'm not regulated in that scenario.
Okay,
so, yes.
Helen, this, and I'm sure there's lots of viewers this morning have this. I have 2 little boys under 2. I'm wrecked. You can really see it through my skin. Can you recommend something that's nice and easy to help revitalise and replenish the skin? Because 2 little boys running around wants an easy routine.
So it's definitely a busy house that you have, Helen. We absolutely take our hats off to you for that. Cleansing and SPFing are always my non-negotiables. So they're the ones that if I could encourage Helen to at least try to wash your face every morning, every evening, really quickly. They're usually at your legs, like you're not getting that moment's peace. And the same at night, hopefully they've gone to bed a little bit before you. But it's an SPF. And why I chose this particular SPF is that if you feel it, to have a look at it, this is images. So exactly. So they brought out only in the last few days, I think it actually officially launches today. They brought out 6 new, they've reformulated all of their SPFs, which as the #1 professional skincare range globally, their SPFs are one of their absolute most popular products. So when they reformulated, there's a lot of expectation behind it. Well, hey, look at Miriam's face. It is tinted. I think Helen will love this because it means that you're getting your moisturiser in there. It's got XOSM technology. So essentially what that means is it actually is delivering all of the antioxidants into the lower layers of the skin. So with an SPF, it's usually superficial.
Excuse me.
We're trying to do, right? When usually it's superficial, we're actually trying to get those ingredients into the lower layer. So it's a moisturiser that's actually helping the skin. That's an SPF that has antioxidants, that has a tint. So for someone like Helen who's in and out and wants to get a lot packed in, that's
Can I ask you, because when it comes to SPF on the face, you need to be pumping, like how much, this much?
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have to do 2 of this?
2 finger lengths, yes.
Okay.
And there is
to make the SPF work.
Exactly, a brilliant question. And they've lots in there. So that's the tinted one. They have a matte one, they have a spray, they have a 50. They have lots of different options. There's something for everybody. But for Helen, I just thought that was a clever idea. And it has, as I said, the microalgae, the vitamin C in there. So she's getting ingredients in that aren't just an SPF. Some SPFs are just SPFs.
And the little bit of tint then just gives you a little bit of colour in your face.
And then when you catch yourself in the mirror later, you're like, okay, we're okay. It's 11 o'clock. I can do this. Keep going.
I don't look that wrecked.
Yeah.
Helen, 2 under 2. You got go, girl. Fair play
and
to you.
It's the most anti-aging thing you can really do is apply an SPF. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we've got another one. What's the best cream to use on my body after being in the sun for a few months?
Oh, look at you.
I know, that's
Factor
what I thought.
50, but I want to hydrate my skin.
Yes. So, firstly, I'm very jealous of the sun for the few months. I'm not going to lie. Look, we had a lovely weekend, the weekend just gone, and I saw quite a few naked limbs walking around.
Yeah, just people got burned.
Which is the reality. Okay, so I think the key thing, as we know, is hydration. So, as this question says, this person hadn't given their name, but they said they use factor 50. How do they hydrate? Do you know what I find is often the most forgotten about part, not just to do with being in the sun, are the hands. Like people tend to forget about their hands day in, day out, 365. And you think about it, you're washing your hands. We know how much you put our hands through. So what I brought with me today is a hand care duo set. So this is from Human and Kind. It's an Irish brand. It's vegan. It's got all natural ingredients inside it. And it's a double. So essentially really affordable. 2 products. First up, you have your exfoliator, and it's a beautiful little, but it's really gentle. I'm not always a huge advocate of granules within a product.
But you can feel the little granules. They are small granules.
Small, very small, but they're not what we call hexagon. Essentially, it means when you're rubbing on the skin, it doesn't cause any irritation whatsoever.
There's no friction.
Always have your hands wet, though I appreciate neither of you do. So in a home scenario, you'd have your hands nice and wet, and you just do a nice little scrub around the cuticles, right up into the all the areas that you can.
Okay,
we want to go to the gym. You want to.
We want to get to your demo, but we've one final question, Vanessa. I'm 51. I have wrinkled skin on my neck. How can I help this, and what can I use properly? What moisturiser can I use to reduce the wrinkles in this area? And a lot of people forget about their neck as well, the face, and they forget about all under here, and that then shows the signs of aging.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, so the reality with the neck is that you've got what's called your platysma muscle. Ultimately, what you're trying to do is always look after the skin, and it's not to be crude, but I would say nipples up, because what you're trying to do is essentially look after the skin. With this neck muscle, it tends to be slightly slackened. So again, I'm going to come back to something that I think is really important. It's about trying to maintain your collagen, not always try to trigger collagen. And the sun is one of the most, I suppose, the UV tends to be the most accelerating reality for our collagen within our skin. What's our collagen? Is that plump protein that we're trying to retain within the skin. This is the brand called Elta MD. It's the UV elements. Again, try it. I think you'll really like it.
Factor 44?
So there's just, it's just the way it converts. It's an unusual number.
I couldn't find the last 6. I didn't know the time to wait.
So I didn't want to go to 50, and 40 was too low. I did 44.
I genuinely love it. Feel the texture of it. Again, lots of different products within it. You've just taken the top off, but it's fine. Again, it has a beautiful tint to it. Really hydrating. Applies beautifully. This one's loved by the likes of Emma Stone, Hailey Bieber. It has your zinc oxide in there. If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for Alan Hughes. But it's your 10% zinc oxide, 5.7% titanium oxide. What am I saying? It's a physical SPF, so it doesn't cause irritation or sensitivity around the eyes, which a lot of people experience. So how would you use this? Every morning, apply it neck up, as we're talking about. But this is if I may segue for a second, treatments like, and this particular product is available for the Institute of Dermatologists. So Professor Katrina, who's often on here on the Saturday show, she talks about treatments, but radio frequency, C and
yeah.
the old therapy. There's a lot of treatments that you can get for the neck area. So the specific question was about the neck. So SPF is ideal to prevent. Absolutely, there's ingredients in there that will hydrate the skin too. It has your hyaluronic or vitamin C, but also alongside treatments when people are getting them done, SPF is paramount. So to consider treatments if it really is getting you down.
Okay, I'm coming down to you. What are you going to do
You're
to me?
coming down to me.
What are we talking about?
Okay, so we are talking...
What's the TikTok trend?
Well, we're going to get there. Will we wait or do we want to do it at the start? We're talking about chemical peels.
Yeah, so chemical peels.
What are chemical peels?
Okay, chemical peels essentially are something, I mean, the word sounds daunting, doesn't it? People think, but our skin is, it's essentially, it's chemistry. Think about a glass of water, it's chemistry. So chemical isn't always negative. People tend to favour natural. I have a qualm with always favouring natural over chemistry or science. There's not always the data to support it. This particular TikTok that has gone quite viral, and there's lots of different options that you can see online at the moment, is essentially baking soda, lemon.
Well, we're looking at one that's a glycolic acid peel.
Oh, sorry,
here.
in a clinic for a scenario.
In a clinic, so that's a real one.
In a clinic scenario, it's when you have a facialist, an esthetician, a dermatologist, a nurse, whomever, that has the correct insurance to be able to apply products that are a higher percentage and what's called a lower pH. In essence, it means that it's a really active product. The goal of a peel is that, as it says, it's essentially trying to exfoliate the skin. The different levels, the different percentages will tell you whether it's trying to really exfoliate the skin, the different layers of the skin. And then there's different ingredients. Some people get a glycolic, like you've just shown. Some people get a salicylic. Some have phenol. Some have lactic. All the different acids, similar to at home.
And does it take away layers of the skin? Does it make it brighter? Like, what do you see when you get a chemical peel? Because all of us know it from Samantha in Sex and the City.
Yeah, so
when she saw that chemical peel and she wore the big hat.
She ruined my career for a long time because people think chemical peels, Samantha Jones, as you said, and that it has to be that much of a downtime. It really doesn't. So going back to the ingredients will be specific too. Some people have pigment, some people might have pores as a concern, some people might have lines as a concern. So you'll have a different acid depending on the different concern by and large. And then you're not always actually trying to peel the skin. You're not always, so the name peel probably is a little bit confusing.
Luckily, we don't have time to get to the...
Well, we do. No, we do. What's this real quickly? What is this? What's the home one?
This is, essentially, this was a TikTok. And my qualm with this, if I may, is that there's no guidance on how to use it, when to use it, SPF to use with it. And it's just, oh, I'll pop a little bit more lemon in, I'll pop a bit more honey in. It's all about how it feels on the skin.
This is the viral one on TikTok with baking soda, and you think it's bad?
Yes, it's a no-go. Baking soda, honey, lemon together, and it's just, I wouldn't have put it on your skin. It'll be too much anyway.
That's why we've run out of time anyway. Jennifer Rock, aka The Skin Nerd, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Welcome back now from Antarctica to Iraq. Our next guest has travelled to all 7 continents and she's on a mission to help others experience some of the world's hidden gems.
Here to tell us all about it is Janet Newenham, travel writer and founder of Janet's Journeys. Good morning to you, Janet. Great to have you with us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Well, listen, people follow you online and your content videos is pretty incredible. It started out, so Janet's Journeys, take us back to the start of it, because you were kind of became big online because of your solo travel, but not just solo travel to pretty obscure locations.
Yeah, definitely. So I think my following really grew after my very first trip to Iraq. So about 3 years ago, as many people might not know, Iraq actually opened to tourism. So it's visa on arrival now. And I know you might not think it's safe. I know you're giving me funny looks. I know you are. But I promise you, it really is safe. So
it's a trip or is it a holiday?
It's a mixture, because I don't think it's a holiday, because we're not lying on the beach. We're not like sunbathing. You know, we obviously go for maybe drinks at nighttime in certain countries and socialize. But I do think it's more of an adventure or like an expedition than a holiday. But some of the destinations are a holiday.
So what made you decide, right, I want to go see these countries, I'm going off by myself?
Yeah. I've been traveling since I was really young. So like since I was 16, 18, I went to Africa for a year when I was just 18. So I've traveled a lot. And I guess I just ran out of normal countries to go to. So I've been to quite a few countries, and I had been to all the normal ones like 2, 3, 4 times. So then I started looking for more obscure ones.
I remember my sister travelled to South America for a couple of months on her own. And my parents were petrified.
Yeah.
Because it does have this, like, it is worrying, and particularly for females to travel on their own and going to obscure destinations as well. Would you encourage more girls to travel on their own? Do you feel safe?
Yeah, I absolutely feel safe. I think it's the best thing women can do, whether you're a girl or teenage, like not teenager, late teens, like 18, 19, or in your 20s or 30s. I highly recommend solo travel. Like, it makes you so confident as a person, gives you great independence. It can help you later in life with your career and stuff. And it's just wonderful. You meet new people all the time.
You don't feel like alone. Like, you kind of are solo, but you're constantly meeting people in hostels, whatever else.
Every time you're in a hostel or backpackers, you're meeting people. There's a lot of amazing Facebook groups out there that that are communities for travel. And so you can kind of partner with other people, and you're never really alone.
And I certainly don't think it's right. It's this narrative that's pushed out into the world that hopefully we are tackling, that women shouldn't be out by themselves at night, they shouldn't be wearing certain things, rather than the narrative being like, hey, how about you don't attract women who are out by themselves at night?
Of course,
which would be the easier thing.
Yes, exactly.
So from that point of view, do you understand why people can be nervous about something like this? Because it's something we keep on being told.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I guess I understand it. I don't relate to it because I started solo traveling so young. So I just have confidence when it comes to solo travel. But I think that's kind of why the group trips came about as well, because it's almost like solo travel. Like, they have to travel there by themselves, right? They have to fly there by themselves. Sometimes they arrive a day early and stay a few days late.
Well, hold on. Let's talk about the group trips.
Sure.
What are they? You started these, you were going to these places and people were like, hi, can I come with you?
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, people just started emailing me and were like, oh my God, you're going to these incredible places. Any chance you'd bring us with you? And I was like, I'd never thought about that. I'm a true and true solo traveler. And I got a lot of emails, like a lot of DMs on Instagram. And so then I thought, well, let's try this out. And then it went really well. And, one trip led to 3 trips and 3 trips led to 10 trips. And we have a lot of repeats, like an absurd amount of repeat customers.
Well, I know you've got 24 trips planned this year, which is really pretty incredible. Whenever you're taking a trip of, say, 14 to Iraq, like, are they open to tourism?
Yes, they are. You won't meet friendlier people, like in that country, for example. Like, they welcome you with open arms. They give you free stuff on the street. Like, they're literally trying to give you free stuff, free bottles of water, invite you for dinner. Like, you'll have dinner at a restaurant and they'll refuse to take any money from you. They're like, thank you for coming to my country.
So have you any scary experiences?
I wouldn't say we've had scary, but we've had what I would now say is funny. Maybe you would think is scary. Yeah, like certain ones, like where there is a lot of security in certain destinations, where, for example, people would get on the bus and they're like, okay, I want to see all of your passports. And even at that, you're like, oh my God, we're going into the city in Iraq. Why do they want our soldiers with guns, lots of guns and lots of soldiers, in full military outfit. I think for the normal person, that might be a bit scary. But the funny thing is, like, I had done that trip so many times, I knew, oh, this is fine. So everyone, give me your passports, give me your passports. So give the guy the passports. And he's looking at the passports one by one. And he comes to my one and he looks at me, and I'm like, oh, what's happening here, And then he's like, TikTok, TikTok. He had recognized me from TikTok, genuinely.
Right.
And then he's like, selfie. I'm like, okay, if you want a selfie, sure. And then everyone started laughing, right?
Tension. Ease.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All good.
Wow.
Stuff like that happened a lot. Another guy came on and we were going into a very high military city. It's quite protected, and up until 3 years ago, tourists were not even allowed there because, well, we won't go into it. Let's just say. And a guy got on the bus and he said, stand up. And everyone was like, what? And then he said, sit down. And then he said, where's your homework? That's all he had learned in school. Stand up, sit down, where's your homework? He said, that's all the English I know.
That was
it. Was a military guy. And we were like, oh, thank God.
Okay, so you can just ease with all of these things. You've gone everywhere all over the world. You've been to places like Antarctica. You're taking groups. So what you're doing is essentially people who want to try these things but don't want to do it by themselves, they go along with you, which is lovely. And then you do the organising. Well done. That's the most horrible thing about travelling. What would be your number one tip if someone was going solo travelling?
Well, in regards to safety anyway, I would say make sure you at least tell your friends or your family where you're going. Maybe share your iPhone location with them so they can always kind of track you, especially if they don't know where you're at, because, your travel plans change. And the other thing is pack light. I tell the girls on my group trips all the time, and like they're slowly learning, they're getting better. But if you can travel with just hand luggage, there's less chance of you losing your bag. If you're moving destination every single day, actually the biggest stress of traveling is packing.
Yeah.
So imagine every day you're like, oh no, I have to pack, and you're like trying to stuff stuff into your suit. Whereas if you have a slightly bigger suitcase but less stuff in it, it's really easy to pack.
Okay.
So I think packing is so key. It makes every day so much easier.
You don't need 24 bikinis when you're walking around.
24 bikinis.
Okay.
Don't think my wife is going to be keen on that one. But it sounds amazing and good on you. Like some of those journeys and some of the footage you just showed there, it's just incredible.
Beautiful.
If people want to follow you online or they're interested, you're on Instagram at Janet's_journeys on Instagram or janetsjourneys.com. Janet Ewenham, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well done.
There
you go, we'll be booked up for this.
go.
Stay tuned. After the break, we are going to be taking a look at our final cling film creation out on the patio. That's Alan Hughes putting the final few touches on it. It's pretty damn incredible. You don't want to miss it. We're back after the break. Now, our next guest has taken the streets of Dublin by storm with a unique twist on graffiti art.
Yes, using cling film as a canvas, artist João Adnet has become a viral hit, and he now joins us this morning. Good morning to you, João.
Morning.
I'm getting ready to go a little bit of paint on
my hair.
Good morning. This looks amazing what you've done for us here. How did this all begin for you? Where did you see this first, or where did the idea come from?
Yeah, when I see that first, I was like looking for just something to do in Ireland, you know, like I just arrived here, so I didn't speak English at this stage at all. So yeah, basically I was looking for a way to make my living here, you know, and the only thing I knew was like do spray paint. You know?
And were you doing that in Brazil?
Yeah. I started to do that in Brazil, yeah.
So you arrived here, you were an artist in Rio de Janeiro, was it?
Yeah.
And then moved to Dublin.
Yeah.
And how did you find the move to Dublin from Rio?
Well, it was a big difference for me, you know, especially like because I'm from Rio. So basically like during the whole year it's really hot.
Yeah.
So especially from summertime, you know.
The Brazilians are always giving out about the weather here.
Yeah.
Tell me then, so how did you come up with the idea of using cling film? Because we see street artists, but this is very much unique.
Yeah, because basically like graffiti is illegal, you know. So basically I couldn't do that straight on the wall because, you know, I could get in trouble here. And also, like, if I did that on the wall, people would confuse that with a commission, you know, so nobody gonna, you know, support me for that.
And give you tips and stuff.
Yeah.
And we're looking at some of the stuff here, like it's amazing. So how long does it take you to do, say, an average painting when you're doing it, an average drawing when you're out on the streets? How long would it take you to do one?
Yeah, usually take about an hour and a half, 2 hours, depends, you know. But yeah. Basically, around this time, you know, I start and go straight until the end.
And so people are just like, if you were busking, they're giving you tips. And so do you just keep touching it up then? After it's finished in half an hour, you keep going over another little bit?
Yeah, that's the thing, because when I got here, I didn't have contact. I didn't know anyone yet. You know, like people didn't know my job, my work. So basically, like,
And I know you saw on YouTube clips of people doing it over in Paris, and that's what gave you the idea to use the cling film as well. What about the wind and the rain, though, in Ireland? Can you still do this while it's pouring rain?
Well, it's not that easy when it's windy, you know, because as you can see, like the plastic doesn't stop to move.
Yeah.
The Joker there.
Boy,
It adds to it, doesn't it? So does that mean if it's windy and wet that you can't work?
Not really. Like I keep doing away, you know. Like actually, like when it's windy and raining at the same time, like the cling film got wet, but at the same time, like the wind dried.
And tell me then, when you create this wonderful masterpiece, we're looking at like Phil Lynott and stuff like that, and then it all just comes down. Is it like, do you go, oh no? Like you pull it down, then
because
move on to the next day.
It's a kind of horse. It's like nobody can buy it. You know, it's like it's temporary. That way, people like I can just have in the phone and next day in the new one.
Well, I know Alan is going to do a little bit here. For people, obviously, you rely very much on people leaving tips and whatever else when they see you on the likes of Grafton Street, but you also do commissions for restaurants and windows and doors and everything else. And if people want to find you, to go on your Instagram at Bruto1.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of your creations are amazing. What? Oh, there you go.
There you go. We're done.
Oh,
we're
fair
finished.
play.
Our RDM sign
He's
is
pretty
done.
talented, isn't he?
Yay! There we go.
I mean,
All
just
done.
the likes of the camera and stuff are really incredible. Congratulations, well done.
Oh, I
listen.
appreciate it.
It's
Well done.
fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Joao
Taking
Agnew.
credit for your work.
Picasso here.
Yeah, so do check it out at Bruto1, BRUTTO1.
Thank
It's really
you.
pretty impressive.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Darren.
Samuel,
Cheers.
for
Thanks very much. That's really good.
Coming up on Wednesday's Ireland AM, Rugby 7-star Jordan Conroy will be here, as well as Cork comedian Andrew Ryan.
We've also got tips on tackling those nasty summer allergies and advice on your travel vaccinations.
All that plus your usual news, sport, and whether you're waking up to join us for Wednesday's Ireland AM from 7. Have a great day. Look at this. Brilliant.
So good.